welcome back to Bikes, Burpees, and Backhand. This is your host, David Matthews, continuing the three-part series with Mr. Tony Tran, a certified athletic trainer. In this portion, we are going to me and Tony are going to discuss blisters and how to treat them, Achilles tendons when they're tight. How do you take some of the pressure off, and a multitude of other things. There is one more part coming, so make sure you find us on iTunes, Spotify, or Podbean, and make sure you give us a shout out. Do a like on there, subscribe, and follow us every time we come out with a new podcast. It will come right to your favorite podcast app, and have a little icon notification on there. You can listen to it sitting in a office somewhere or in a lobby. That's one of my favorite things to do, is listen to it while I'm on my way to work. So make sure you pick those up, and feel free to leave us a comment. We love comments. Give you a shout out on one of our podcasts. And without further ado, we're going to jump right on into getting Mr. Tony Tran. They're part of the game. Blisters. What causes blisters? B, how do you treat them? How do you not miss practices? Because as well as in tennis or cycling's a little different because the shoes are clipped on and they're really a part of your foot because you're trying to transfer 100% of your effort through that shoe into that crank, which makes you go faster.
Right.
But tennis, where, especially in today's world, I see kids, they wear their shoes like loafers. And then they come off the court and they've got 19 blisters. And I look at them and I go, I don't think I had 19 blisters in my entire career. But then again, my shoes were tied. They were not loosely laced on my foot.
That just brought me back to the days of DMTA when we would be running and doing drills, and then like people next to us would be like running and their shoe would just come off. It's like, your shoe coming off. Like if they can just quickly slip on and off, like that's not good. You shouldn't be running. That's just asking to get hurt,
Yep.
So, I hope I've smartened up since then. I don't know if I did anything like that, but
you didn't.
Good.
The missile man was always strapped in, ready to go.
Yeah, I think you're hyping me up too much. I think my tennis is okay.
Nah, it was good. Don't worry, buddy.
But yeah, blisters, they're painful. They're not fun to have. So the reason why we usually get blisters, usually on the feet, is because of improper footwear. So one, the shoe is not fitting right. Someone may have a shoe size that's too large, or they're not secured enough, tight enough, like we are just talking about. The shoe is not properly fitted to them. Like some people have flatter feet, some people have higher heart, so they get the wrong shoe, and then they find out that, oh, my foot is moving a little bit too much in the shoe, so it's causing more friction along the sole of the feet, which can cause blisters. So what I would recommend, have a proper fitting shoe. For one, if you have a wider toe, you want to get a shoe with a wider toe box.
Right.
So having dry socks, which you probably know about, with biking and being on a tennis court, your feet will get soaked, right? So it's good to have dry socks to change out and to keep the friction as minimal as possible. Because with a wet sock, you're kind of moving a little bit more within that shoe and that sock. So definitely recommend that.
How do you treat one?
So there's a few ways. You can take moleskin. I unfortunately don't have any moleskin on me, but what moleskin is, it's a piece of cotton fabric. it's cotton fabric on one side and it's a adhesive on the other side.
Right.
So what you can do, I'm just gonna grab this kind of gauze pad. So what you can do is take that piece of moleskin. You can find this, at your pharmacy or order on Amazon. You can get anything on Amazon these days.
Right.
So you cut out a piece of moleskin that's a little bit bigger than your blister. You fold it in half, right?
Right.
And then there, you take a pair of scissors. You can cut a semicircle. Not really good at arts and crafts. Hopefully this turns out well. There we go. So then from there, you unfold it and you have a circle. So your blister would fit right inside that circle. You take that adhesive off, you apply that around the blister, and now you have some form of padding to kind of protect that blister from any more friction. So that's one way. Another way, which I use a lot, is I use second skin squares. So they're these little cooling gel pads that will go right over the blister. It just kind of soothes the blister and the skin, make it less irritable. And then from there, I would put a Band-Aid over that, and then maybe take some Power Flex, which is like a gauze self-adhesive bandage, and wrap that around the foot to reduce any friction that may occur there. So yeah.
So
those are things that I use.
So if you've got a blister that's still got the fluid in it, do you get the fluid out? Do you wait for it to break?
So
yeah,
operation would tell you don't pop the blister. But from my experience, if there's a lot of fluid buildup, I'm gonna get a sterile needle of some sort, and then I'm gonna poke the side of it, drain the fluid, and then use the moleskin around it.
Right.
That'll be irritating for the athlete.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I've been doing for 40 years. I think that's probably where moleskin came from, was right about the time I needed blister stuff. They came out with moleskin just for me because I had so many of them. Now, that leads me to another question. So you've got these blisters that are now got moleskin on them after a few days or a week or whatever. Like one of my former students, a little older than you, John Williams, used to say, I got 5 blisters between 2 feet. I know how to get rid of them. I said, how's that? And he goes, let's go to the court. Let's wind them down and grind them out. And I was like, yeah, well, I mean, basically, they're going to be painful. You're going to have to go through that transition period. Part of being an athlete is also knowing how to block that out. Do your drill, do your things. We've all had them. We've had them on our hands. We've had them on our feet. Like my wife used to say, God, here's my husband, Dave Matthews, and I would reach out my hand to shake hands, and they'd go, have fun shaking hands with that horse hoof. And I'm like, oh my God, my hand is like a horse hoof because you got blisters all over them. That's part of the game.
Yeah.
So how do you take care of calluses so that you don't want to go back through that blister process? If you shut down for 4 months, you're going to have to recreate some new blisters, and that's just the way that game goes.
But man, I wish they made athletes as tough as John Williams these days, because that wasn't for sure. But yeah, I mean, that's one way to take care of blisters, to kind of grind it out and kind of let the callus form to kind of protect that area.
Right.
You get in the hands for sure. I have little tiny calluses from tennis.
Sure.
Now, but yeah, I mean, that definitely is one way to take care of blisters. I don't know if I understood your question correct. Are you asking like?
So once you get your blisters taken, let's say you put your moleskin, you take the fluid out of the blister, you put the moleskin over it. You can't tell me the friction is not going to continue. So all you're doing is kind of saying, okay, blister, now dry out a little bit, and let's see what happens. You're gonna form a callus there. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
So once you form that callus, because that's basically what you're trying to do when you use the moleskin or those little blue pads. I like those, but I wish those blue pads had been around when I was coming up. Man, I'd have had
case of them bad boys. But
We're breaking up.
what do you do for your calluses so they don't? Because I know sometimes I've had like a blood blister that has occurred below a callus. And then that's a whole nother detailed situation.
Right.
Do you cut your calluses down? I know you use Puma stones to hone them a little bit so they don't get so sharp, or
Right.
sometimes they get dried out. You don't want them to dry out because you want the callus so you don't go through that blister process again.
Right. I mean, for the calluses, if they get too sharp, I've taken like a nail filer. I
Sure.
just file them down. I don't want to go too far because I want that callus there to
Right.
kind of protect me. I mean, keep on playing, keep on running. Keep those calluses there. They're there to prevent you from getting another blister.
Right.
I wouldn't say get rid of them unless, I don't know, you're superficial like that and you like the way your hand looks. But I think for many athletes, they wouldn't mind having a callus there to kind of protect you from that increased friction.
Yeah, the blister process is never a fun one for anybody. I don't care who it is. It's people. I've seen blisters take people down to their knees. Matter of fact, I saw that one tournament. It might have been the U.S. Open or Australian Open a year ago, where Choe had that. People were talking about the blisters, and the first thing you think about from our perspective is, they showed a picture of his foot, and there was a freaking hole in that foot, and I was like, yeah. I was like, okay, my bad, dude.
Yeah.
So my props to you. You're a lot tougher than I thought you were.
Yeah. I mean, that was the semifinal match against Federer.
Yep.
And it was very hyped up. I was watching it. They showed that blister, and it was the size of, like, I don't know, my palm.
Yeah.
His foot.
I was like, your foot's gone.
Yeah, those are the rare ones to see, I mean, with those pro athletes, they're moving so much on the court.
Sure.
And to have a blister that size is unfortunate. I mean, that's going to affect anybody.
Yeah.
Having to pivot and stop and all.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
There's not much moleskin that would.
That'd be a foot pad.
A foot pad for sure.
Oh, okay. Anything else you want to add to any of the things we've talked about so far?
I mean, for tendonitis, general injury rules. Injury things. The best thing to do for injuries is to prevent them, right?
Sure.
You don't have to treat or manage them if you don't have them in the first place.
Right.
And, the thing to do for that is just to condition your body.
Right.
Maybe you can't get on the court every day, and you're that weekend warrior that may go out on the tennis court on a weekend and hit 1,000 balls hours at a time, and then have injuries occur. Maybe you're that guy that goes during the weekends. But what you can't do during the week is to work out, move the body, train, lift weights. Doing something that mimics what you do on court is really going to help you on the court.
Right.
Reduce those injuries. Like I always tell my athletes, the stronger your muscles are to support that joint, I think the less likely you are to injure that joint because you have that support.
Right.
So that's one thing to think about.
Yeah, we got one of our mutual friends. How about this one? I'm doing a live feed on Facebook. One of our mutual friends, Mr. Steve Choe, came in. Yeah, he says Achilles tendon pain in the morning after playing tennis. What would you recommend? The first thing I would say, Steve, is why you got Tony as your partner.
Steve, so a little. I'm going to tell people a little bit about Steve's Achilles. So he's been having Achilles kind of tendonitis problems for the longest time now. And from the very beginning, I was like, Steve, get yourself some heel cups. There's these gel heel cups that you can get at the pharmacy. They cost like $10.
Right.
What they do is they kind of elevate your heel a little bit to take that stress off the Achilles tendon.
Right.
And I've been telling him to do this for the longest time, and he just now did them. And he told me yesterday at practice, we had tennis practice. He's like, I finally got them, and oh boy, they feel so much. And I threw my racket at him because it took him this long to get them. I'm glad he finally got them, but that's that's a little bit about Steve right there.
So back in my day when I played college basketball, I had tendonitis of the Achilles tendon. And they used to take me in and tape my ankles every day before practice and before every game. And that kind of subsided it. Does that have anything to, I don't know, disengaging from the leg and getting, kind of like an opposite shin splint? Is that kind of the theory or?
Yeah, I mean, if you take the ankle, you're going to provide some support there. But I think elevating the heel to take some stress out of the Achilles for that particular situation is a little bit more important. But yeah, taping an ankle would provide some support. Depending on how you do it, there's different ways you can tape an ankle for an ankle. But giving the Achilles some support while you're playing tennis or doing whatever, it's going to help give the body some feedback, proprioception feedback to kind of support the ankle. So yeah, it should help.
Okay, good. Steve, get your game going, buddy. I just looked at him on Facebook. I want to do a little some cycling questions. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
That was part 2 of 3 with Mr. Tony Tran. As you just heard, part 3, which is soon to come, we'll deal with some cycling injuries, possibly collarbones, road rash, those kind of items for cyclists. Mr. Tran will help us try to get you back on the bike as quick as possible or keep you from being off the bike. Just remember, you can find us on iTunes, Podbean, and Spotify. If you don't mind, please go like us, subscribe, and leave us a comment or a review. Any comments are gladly welcome. You can also email us with any request. Our email is bikes, burpees, backhands. That's all strung together, no commas, no hyphens, @gmail.com. We welcome any emails, and we'll gladly give you a shout out on our live podcast. Hope you'll tune in for part 3 of the 3-part series with Mr. Tony Tran in a couple of days. We'll get that back up and hope everybody enjoys their athletics. And y'all have a good evening.